Hey, so it's been like 15 and a bit months since I put out my review of the Nikon Z8, my initial review. Here we are, over a year later. What do I think? Do my thoughts in this video hold up? We're gonna find out. What's up? My name's Chris Tejas. I'm a photographer and videographer based in Ontario, Canada. I mainly shoot portraits, events, and weddings, so a lot of this review is going to be reflected on that. I also do some commercial work, some video work, things like that, obviously stuff here on YouTube. So what we're going to talk about today is the Nikon Z8, and I haven't made a lot of videos about this camera yet, because to be honest, like everybody seemed to be really thirsty for stuff on the ZF, and I really like using that camera, and it just seemed to me like, why not make videos that I'm interested in and you're interested in, because hey, shouldn't that be how it works? I put out this last review in May of last year because I was given the camera to try for a little while from Nikon. I took it with me on a trip to Europe and shot a bunch of stuff. I shot some events, and I felt like I had like a good sense of it overall as a camera from like a first impression. So I thought I would put something out, and it did, I don't know, did all right. But the point is, we're past that now, past the honeymoon period. I've been using the camera for a while now. This is like my main camera now. So I figured we would just kind of go through it. So let's go through point by point. We're gonna make a sort of a response to that original video. Talking about ergonomics first. Very comfortable. I like where everything is placed more or less. I have regular size hands for a guy. A couple things I don't like though. One, I wish it had a wheel. It just has a D-pad. I prefer a wheel. It just helps me with the way that I have my workflow, because usually I'll put my ISO on the wheel. That remains true. Okay, so if I am shooting with this, I would love it if I could just have 3 different things to map to. If I had 3 different dials so I could map my ISO, my shutter speed, and my aperture, that would be really nice. You don't have that. It's not there, hasn't magically gotten there. So I'm gonna say from an ergonomic perspective, that does hold up. What I will say is that more and more, I love the feel of this camera. I love using it. It feels like I'm using a DSLR in terms of like how the grip feels and how it handles, which I think is actually great, but you have all the modern conveniences of a mirrorless, which is awesome. The weight is really, really nice too. I mean, I don't mind that it's a bit heavier. I kind of prefer that because it just feels like it has some heft and some weight to it. I also love the screen. The fact that it's a tilt screen rather than a flip screen is just really, really nice. So I don't know if I cover that later in the video, but I can tell you for sure that if I were to talk about ergonomics of this right now, I would mention the fact that it has that tilt screen. I would talk about how I like the place that the little joystick is placed, and I like the feel of it. I like the fact that it has the little dial dedicated to camera and to video. I think that's awesome, and it works really, really quickly and easily. Overall, it's just kind of a joy to use this from an ergonomics perspective. Second thing is the user interface with this camera. Okay, so when I look at this, I don't know, I'm kind of on 2 sides. Like, I find there's so much you can do with this. It's such a wildly powerful camera. It's a little overwhelming. I will stick by what I said overall, that I think the menu system is really dense. I think it's a really capable camera, obviously. And so because of that, there are a ton of menus to dig through. And I find the placement of some of the things just weird. Why is it that I have to scroll super, super far down to get to autofocus settings in the main menu? That doesn't really seem to make any sense to me. Why is it that certain things are buried deeper in menus or in control settings when they don't necessarily have to be? The thing is, it's just such a legacy thing. So if you've used this for long enough, you probably know where everything is. But if you're newer to the system, it doesn't really feel like it's very intuitive. So menu system and UI, I think it could use some work still. And hopefully there's like a refresh that can happen eventually. But I don't know if they will, because like maybe they're just gonna be so concerned about losing existing customers and frustrating them that they won't kind of go back to the drawing board, which would be unfortunate, because I think we as a group of people should acknowledge when we're used to things that aren't great. That doesn't make them okay. It just means we're used to it. And frankly, like, I don't want to just be like somebody who is able to like constantly adapt. I want things to get better. And I think the user interface on this is fine, but the menu system is just rough. I'd say a couple things about the autofocus. The first thing, that out of the box, I don't find the autofocus works perfectly. Like, I basically reset this and I wasn't super happy with the results I was getting from the autofocus. It just felt a little off. Once I started diving in and customizing it a little bit, it worked really, really well. Autofocus. I talked about the fact that I felt like it hunted a little bit, that it was out of the box, not how I would normally have it set up. And I would say that that's still true. I don't think that the 3D tracking on it is like the most intuitive thing ever. The fact that you have to like, it's weird, like you hit OK to start the tracking, and then you like hit OK again to stop the tracking, but it kind of confuses you a little bit until you've used it for a while. I think that that's clunky and weird. The way that I've kind of solved the autofocus issues for me is that I've got a few different settings. So generally speaking, I'm going to be in the all area for most of the time with people setting for my subject detection. And then from there, I use the AF on button to punch over to the 3D tracking, which I find really helpful. And it's just like a center point. So then I press it. And then the second I half press down my shutter is when it locks on to the thing that I want to go with. And then I go with that. Generally, that works pretty well. Now, things where I've found that this is just not as confident of a system as, say, Sony or Canon would be if I am shooting, let's say, someone walking down an aisle because I'm shooting a wedding. I find that if I have it in all area, it will not necessarily prioritize the person walking down the aisle. It will look at a bunch of different faces that are in the crowd and it'll jump between them and it really won't know what to do. To solve that, I set up one of my custom zone focuses, which is really nice on this camera. You can set custom zone focuses that are very, very small, very big. You know, you can change a lot of them, which is really nice. The way that I do it is basically I have it set up so that I have it like basically the size of the aisle and the center of the sensor, and then it just basically follows that going up and down. I don't like that I have to do that, but it is a good solve and it works pretty well. So then I basically just have my front function button. So this button down here, I have that map to be able to cycle through a few of the different autofocus settings that I use a lot. So I have like single point, I have that custom zone focus, I have all area, I have 3D. That's basically all I need most of the time. So that is my kind of workaround or solve for the type of stuff that I shoot, but it's just not as intelligent. It's not as smart as if I was shooting on a Sony or a Canon. And it's still very good autofocus, but it doesn't do as much for you as those cameras do. So frankly, it's a pass. I would say that maybe I miss more shots with this than I would have with my Sony, but I'm happier with the files overall with this. So I don't know, it's kind of a toss up. I do think, again, it does depend on the lenses for sure. Now that I've switched over to the S series lenses for everything, it's definitely more confident and I'm finding less issues and less hunting and that kind of thing. And I'll say that the Z8 definitely hunts less than my ZF, which is cool too. So there's some positives there. One of the biggest things here, image quality. The photos look stunning. The raw files are super easy to work with. The video looks beautiful. I find that it responds really well to grading, or if you just want to shoot, like a lot of what I shot was just using a standard or like a flat profile and it works really nicely straight out of camera. So the image quality overall is excellent. That hasn't changed in a year and a half. Obviously it's the same sensor. I am putting better glass in front of it now. Although when I was shooting with this, when I had the tester, I had the 51.8, which is what I have on here right now. And that lens produced some stunning images while I was away and stunning video. And that is still the case. I am super happy with it. I am going to continue to look into investing into great lenses for the Nikon system so that I can continue to get better and better results. But the image quality is stunning. That is like the number one thing that you're going to get with this, I would say, outside of like ergonomics and all the different little things that make this camera great. I would say like the sensor on it is beautiful. I really like the images, and it's cool too because I mean it's an electronic shutter, and so you can do a lot of things with this that you can't do with other cameras because it's a stacked sensor, but it's electronic shutter. You can go quite high in your shutter speed and still get really solid images where you're not seeing a lot of like rolling shutter or anything like that, that you would sort of see in the readout of a slower electronic shutter at a higher megapixel count. So yeah, all good things. Image quality is great. Battery life, it's fine. It's not great. Battery life, I completely stand by what I said. The battery life is not awesome. I do find that I chew through batteries. It's not as bad if it's just photo, but if it's like photo and video, for sure, it goes through batteries quick. If it's a hot day, it goes through batteries quicker. If it's a really cold day, probably the same, but battery life is fine. I don't think it's great. I wouldn't put this like way up there. Like when I shoot with my ZF, I definitely get a lot more images overall than I do with the Z8. So that's something to think about. Price. Now this is interesting because one of the things I talked about with this was like not necessarily the price of this camera being super high, but the issue with Nikon at the time when I made this video. This is the hard part with Nikon currently, is that if you want to get like a two body system and you want something that is like very capable, you kind of have to go with the Z8 or the Z9 and maybe the ZF. All these other cameras just weren't nearly as good as like looking at the Z8 and the Z9. And so it kind of felt like you had this huge gap where you either pay a lot of money for the Z8 and Z9, or you pay a lot less, but you get cameras that are like way less functional. The ZF being maybe one of the only ones that I would say is a bit of an exception. So overall, it just felt like you were kind of in this place with Nikon where there wasn't much you could do. But now you have the Z5 II, you have the Z6 III, and the ZF, and the Z8 and the Z9, you have this like really robust lineup with different price points and different attributes that are really, really great. So there's actually a lot you can do now. So I think the price of this is actually more justified now than it was then, because they weren't putting you in this position where you had to choose super high end to get all the best of the best, or like, you know, something that was quite far behind, which is cool. Okay, so the thing that was actually my biggest issue is something that I totally don't agree with anymore, which was the electronic shutter, not having a mechanical shutter. The reason I didn't like it was because I found myself not being sure if I was actually taking my shots, because I would take a shot and there's a zero blackout on it. So you would have to see the little frame thing around it kind of flash a little bit. And if you didn't catch that, you wouldn't know if you took the shot. So I found myself a lot of the times, being so used to mechanical shutter, actually having to like go back and look to see if I took the shot, or to kind of watch the buffer go down. To be honest, I just haven't even thought about that. Like, that really hasn't bothered me. I have this set up in a way now where like I do have a very small sound when it takes a shot. So that's the sound that it makes now. So the way I have it set up now is that I do actually have it have the like blackout. So I actually do see the photos get taken, and that's basically a solve, which is really simple. And the shutter sound on it, I've made a little bit louder. So I guess it was just something I hadn't really figured out then. And I'm glad that I do that now, because it makes my life a little bit easier. If you like zero blackout, that's great. You can do it on this camera. And I do that sometimes, but it's nice to know that I don't have to. So the ultimate question is, at this point now, with tariffs, with all the issues, with different cameras becoming more and more expensive, with this camera getting a little bit older, is it worth the money? I would say with a resounding assertion of yes, it is absolutely worth the money. I think if you can afford it, if it makes sense for your workflow, it is absolutely worth it. You're gonna get so much out of this from a photo and video perspective. We didn't even really touch on the video perspective, but it records great, great video. It's an excellent camera. So a year and a half later, I still think it's a great buy. I think you should do it if you have the money and it's something you need. Otherwise, don't go into debt for it, and don't kid yourself. Probably what you have is fine. But hey, if you're in the market for a new camera and you got the money, it's a great buy. And you're buying into a really strong ecosystem that's getting a lot of traction right now, which means that it's retaining value better, which means that better lenses are coming out for it, which means that overall there's just like more to it, which is cool. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.